This game essentially created its own genre. No, I'm serious, it really did. And that puts it in the same league as the Souls games and Mario Brothers, and in terms of previous installments, it sold more than those two editions. That's pretty impressive for a series that was considered a niche some years ago. A series that wasn't popular enough to release in the West, bringing about a petition from its fans overseas. See, I'm a story-driven player, so you can see how me and this game wouldn't gel, because it doesn't really have one, more or less. There's no Baron's wife, no Liara, no captivating story hook, no connection to the main characters, and no mystery. But that's not really needed because it does what it does best, and that's the gameplay. For many people out there, it's not about making it to the last chapter, saving a character or uncovering a mystery. It's the boss battles that gets them going, and this game takes that concept and runs with it. So everything you do in this game is in preparation for just that. Every step has to make sense, and every equipment used has to be right. If not, you start over. And maybe that's the key thing about this game. In failure, there's success, because the former is not fatal, but a learning experience. Just like the Souls games. But let's go back to the beginning, before this niche became one of Capcom's biggest franchises, beating out Resident Evil's recent sales, Street Fighter, Mega Man, and Devil May Cry. So the stage is the year 2004, and the premises of the game is as simple as its name. You hunt monsters. But understand the simplest and most original ideas are the ones that sometimes stand out the most, as long as you bring something new to the table. You seek monsters across different terrains with a three-way mission structure: gather, hunt, and capture. After defeating said monster and obtaining the materials, you use those materials to go craft new armor sets and weapons to take out new and stronger monsters. Rinse and repeat. So it's essentially a loop-based game. Now what it also did was give you the opportunities to hunt with friends online, which was rather new at the time. Now based on those 2 points, it might sound boring to some, and it did to me. But there's something to be said about obtaining new weapons and armor sets, trying out the same battles with new strategies with friends and new weapons. So numbers wise, it didn't do particularly well, but it also started this new trend we know well in the industry today. The idea of releasing remastered versions or expansions of a previous game, which came in the form of Monster Hunter G, the G being there to illustrate the change. From what I gathered, it wasn't necessarily a cash grab, it was just due to a budget and time constraints and trying to give the fans something new to hold them until the sequel. The following year after G, Monster Hunter 2 dropped, and of course it improved on everything its predecessor did, such as adding new weapon types and enhanced graphics, while also including day and night cycles, which changed how you explored and interacted with the environments and monsters. But one of the main takeaways was the focus on crafting systems to aid your battles, making the fights a bit more experimental, granting stats boost and passive abilities. And I think that's the major step to what we actually have now from this series. Next up, Monster Hunter Tri. Now the story of Monster Hunter Tri is actually an interesting one. Around this time, the next gen consoles had just launched and the PlayStation 3 was just too much of an issue to deal with in terms of development. So it skipped that console and went straight to the Wii, the more feasible option. Once again, it improved on graphics and added a few new mechanics such as underwater combat. A mechanic many thought wasn't executed properly, but it did show the series was looking to change things and experiment with the formula. The game was not successful sales-wise as its predecessors, but once again, all a learning experience in preparation for the sequel, Monster Hunter 4. Now here's the defining moments for Capcom and the fans. Monster Hunter 4 released exclusively in the East. You see, localizing games is a tough process, and Capcom had no plans to take a risk for a game which normally sold poorly in the West. But the fans banded together for a petition and eventually it arrived, selling over 1 million copies, the best from any Monster Hunter game in that region. So it was clear interest was improving, but it had very much to do with the gameplay. You could actually mount monsters now, there was verticality added to the game, so that changed the way you approach situations. The game was a lot more aggressive as well, and there was a better attempt at actually telling a story this time around. Which brings us to now, Monster Hunter World. With over 60 million sales to date, there's just too many changes to list here. But you can see just from these videos the vast improvements and small quality of life changes the game has done. Once again, the monsters feel distinct along with the weapons. The combat looks and feels great, and of course the ability to customize your own character and play the way you want brings that element of imprinting your own personality into the game. That loop of preparation and execution, with the fact that these monsters have their own personalities on how they respond to their environment and you, gives you that feeling that the world is actually lived in, and you actually are a monster hunter. It's a tried and true formula that's been improved upon over the years. And now with Monster Hunter Rise, although releasing on a weaker platform in the Switch, you can already see from the positive reception and previews that Capcom has another hit. For many people out there, Monster Hunter World is their first experience with the series. And looking at the interest of this game, I don't doubt that Rise will be any different. So I'm patiently waiting until the 26th of March.